Well, the serrata dress is almost finished. I've just got the hem to do, but I've hung it on Rita just to let it settle, because sometimes fabric, the weight drags the hem down. So I don't want to hem it. I'm going to leave it on Rita for a couple of days, and I've not quite decided on the length that I want. So that's it. I'm not doing any more sewing today, and it's only 11 o'clock. So what I thought I'd do is give you a little tour of my sewing space, because I've not done that for quite a while and it's been rejigged around a little bit, and some of you may never have seen it. So I'm going to take you on a mini tour. We're going to rummage around in some of my drawers. Eek! I've had a little bit of a tidy up, so there shouldn't be too many shocks in there. And it might give you some inspiration of what to do for your sewing space if you're working in a small space. Hi there, I'm Christine the Gemini Stitcher, and welcome to my little sewing space. We're going to have a nosy at where I sew today, and you might get some ideas for your sewing space. Just to give you some context, I've just had a quick measure, and the space that I use differs whether I'm working in it or it's all put away. So when it's all put away, the width of it is 2.7 meters, so not bad, quite wide. But then the depth, when I've collapsed everything away and tidied up, because it's a shared space, is 1.5 meters deep, which isn't a lot, is it? That's about 5 foot, the height of me. But when I get my cutting table out, which I use as workspace, it then increases up to 2 meters. So now I've explained, we'll have a look and it might give you some context. So I'm going to zoom back, and then you can see the whole room and my little sewing space at the end. So here we are at the other end of the room. You can see the big bifold doors there. They let loads of light into this space. And then over this side here, where the other doors are, that's through to the lounge area. And then behind me is the kitchen, but we're not going there today. So big dining table, which I did used to use for cutting out on, but I don't anymore because it damages the table, doesn't it? So let's zoom forward. You can just about make out my sewing space at that end. Let's try and zoom forward and see if you can see it from here. Okay, so you can see the white cutting out table and Rita looking very nice on this side, but it's all fairly compact into that side of the room because this is a shared space. So this is what it looks like over that end of the room when I've tidied up. So we'll just have a look at it from a different angle. There's a high window at that side on the back wall, and my sewing space goes from one end of that wall to the other and then sneaks into the room. As my husband said, you're taking more and more space up, what's going on? I do try not to, but we've got to store things, haven't we, girls? So this is my cutting table that stays flat but then gets pulled out when I'm sewing. There's the beast on my sewing table, and then we've got storage and fabric in the top corner over there. So we'll just look at this side and then I'll set everything up as if I'm going to sew. So from this angle we've got cutting table, Rita in the background. I've got a tray here with all sorts of notions on, and then on the top of a Kallax unit here I have my Ovation combi overlocker and cover stitch machine that I'm still getting to grips with. So that's the sort of layout of the room. Not big, but not small, but because it's a shared space, I have to try and keep it tidy, which we all know is nigh on impossible, but I do my best. Okay, so I've set up as if I'm going to be working now, which means it is the width of the room, and then it goes up to 2 meters that way because I sneak into some of the space, but only while I'm sewing. So I've got my cutting table set up here. This goes along the back. I've got my chair, my sewing machine is here, and then over here on the Kallax unit is my overlocker. So everything is within swivel space of my chair. And some of you have pointed out recently that I do a lot of sewing stood up. Yes, I do. It's my preference. When I'm doing detailed work and I need to see where it's lining up with the presser foot on my sewing machine, I find it easier to be stood up, probably because I'm vertically challenged. If I'm sat down, even with the chair on the highest setting, I don't feel like I can see the lines on the presser foot. So I stand up a lot because I do a lot of detailed sewing, but that's my bag. If it damages my back and my neck, I can't do it any other way, so that's what it is. Anyway, enough of my sewing stances. Cutting table, overlocker, notions, sewing machine. All in a U shape, all within easy reach of each other. So when I'm cutting out, I can use this for cutting out. I can go around the other side, spread my fabric out, cut things out. When I'm not cutting out, I spread all my pattern pieces out on here and use it as a workspace. So it works really well. Now, I got this cutting table from Amazon. If they've still got them or similar, I will pop a link below for them. It folds down into a drop leaf table and it's got a shelf underneath for storing all the things that I don't use very often. So what is hiding under there? Let's have a look together. So there's all sorts under here. Here's me crawling on the floor. Over there is all my pressing stuff, my best press and my tailor's hammer, etc. all in a little box all together. I've got a travel iron there, electric scissors, elastic, and then at the top here, that is my caddy with stuff to take to socials. So these 4 drawers are in a Kallax unit underneath my Baby Look Ovation. So let's have a look what's inside them. So in drawer number 1, this has all got mainly quilting things in it. So there's some clips, some quilting tape, some spare wadding, spray glue, use that a lot when I'm quilting. There are lots of these little plastic templates that I got from quilting magazines. My rotating cutting mat, which is really good if you're doing fiddly little cutting. Some freezer paper, and then these tracing paper, and then this is embroidery stabilizer, and that's embroidery stabilizer. And then I have one of these grippy things for my long ruler. This next drawer is a bit of a dumping ground, I've got to be honest. So I keep all my spare sewing needles in here. There's some embroidery thread, spare needle bobbins, thread bobbins, and empty storage Ziploc bags, and then all my tapes and old thread in there. So bit of a dumping ground, but I know what's in there. This drawer is underneath my overlocker, and it's got all my different overlocker threads in, and I also, when I'm not sewing, put my spare bobbins or into these holders. I have two. I have one for normal sewing thread, and then the other one is for my embroidery threads. So when I'm not sewing, they sit in here, and these are just the tools for the overlocker. This drawer is a bit of a dumping ground. It's got all quilting stuff in, so it's all part completed quilts and scraps of fabric that I want to use for quilting, but it needs a good sorting out, so maybe I'll get that done sometime today. Not. Now we're underneath my sewing desk now, and it's supported by Kallax units. So in all these boxes, that one's got interfacing scraps, that one's got all my zips in, that one's got cuffing in, there's plain webbing, pattern webbings, bits of lining in there. This shelf is the naughty shelf, and it's got all my patterns that I've bought and not used yet, just so I know where they all are. And then down here is a bit of a dumping ground with magazines, files and books, and all my instructions for my machines are all in that cupboard there. These 4 drawers here have all got my patterns in. So I have all my tops in that one, all my trousers in that one, all my dresses in this one, and all my jacket patterns in that one. They're all fairly full, as you can see, and I need to stop buying patterns, don't I? So we're on my desktop now. The beast is here, front and centre, of course. And then over in that corner, I have all my sewing, dressmaking threads all on one of those nice little stands. Here, where all the plugs are, this little gadget is where I charge all my batteries for my vlogging camera. Just move it slightly over because we're on top of the Kallax unit now. So there's my Ovation baby lock and one of my storage units that I've got here. So this has got different compartments in it. This one's got all my tape. This is what I use when I'm stabilising the shoulders on jersey fabrics. This one's got all my labels in, which I always forget to use. I've got one that's full of clips. This is full of fastenings like hook and bars and press studs, little bits of things. And then this last one has got all glue related products in. So I've got a glue stick, I've got my stretch fix in there. And that sits at the side of my overlocker. It's got a handle on, so when I'm using it I can move it onto the table over there out of the way, but that's where it sits. So this is the other side of my sewing machine. You can just see the edge of the beast here. And I've got was meant to be my sewing tidy, armchair sewing tidy, but I'm actually using it at the side of my machine with everything in. If I am doing hand stitching, which isn't very often to be fair, then I roll it up and take it in the lounge. And I also roll this up and take it on sewing retreats and socials with me, because it's got everything in there that I need to take with me without having to start packing everything up. So this is the wall that backs onto the lounge, and in the corner I've got all my fabrics. I've rolled them. I did used to fold them and put them all on top of each other. I'm trying rolling them to see if that works better. Now it does look a little bit untidy at times, so one of my little projects that I want to do is put a curtain on the front, but I want to do it all in strips of fabric that I've got in my scraps. So I'm looking at doing that. God knows when, but it's on the radar. Above the Kallax unit, because we're being open and honest here, we all have to store things somewhere. That corner, that's my Simplicity bias tape maker. Hardly ever use it, but when I do, I need it. And then next to it, this gadget here is the embroidery arm with some hoops on top for my sewing machine. It sits up there so I can just take it down whenever I need it. Down here is the second half of my fabric stash. Yes, I've got 8 Kallax units full. These that are a little bit messy in this corner are on wheels and this stack, and I've got all my bag making bits and bobs in these. They're looking a little bit of a mess at the moment. I do need to sort them out, but that's where all my bag making stuff lives. So we're looking at the back wall now. The fabric is in this corner here, and there's a Kallax unit next to it. I've sneaked that in recently. We'll see if the hubster notices. I've got all my embroidery threads on a stand there so that I can see them. Hung on the side here, these are some of my project bags, and then behind them is the wall hung storage that I made recently, that's got one for scissors, one for rotary cutters, one for marking pens, and a miscellaneous, and that's really working well for me. So then in the actual Kallax units, this box has got all my scraps from recent projects in. Naughty naughty, try not to get that overfilled, so I do need to do some scrap busting fairly quickly. I've got a thing of pattern weights. I use those a lot instead of scissors when I've got a big project to cut out. In here I've got all my snaps, the metal snaps that you can use. So up in the top there's the Vario pliers that I used to use and all the attachments that you need. And then in the bottom of here it's got individual drawers, so I can put all my different snaps into all the different compartments, and I can find them easily if I put them in the right ones. This I got from Amazon, and I think it's meant to be a fishing tackle box. So if you fancy something like this, you can use it for buttons, you can use it for anything. It's really good. It's got a handle on it, so it's easy to carry around. I'll pop the link for it below if you're interested. And then next to the snaps is my gorgeous button storage that I got. It's a craft box that divides into 1, 2, 3. It's got 5 different sections to it. We'll just unclip the lid and then you can see it's got a handle on the lid, and then there's all those compartments inside, which is brilliant for storing buttons in. And if you need more than 5 compartments, you can buy additional sections as well. So that is a really good storage box for buttons. It's time to fess up now. This bottom drawer is my whips bag, or my whips box. So there's a bit of spare fabric there that needs to go in the scrap bit because I've finished the dress. And look what's on the top. Yes, it's my Amelia jacket. That is my next project to get finished before I cut out the Maison Fauve gorgeous mellow trouser pattern. So I hope you enjoyed that whistle-stop tour around my little sewing space, and you realised I haven't got a massive sewing room that I sew in. I do sew in a fairly small compact space, but it's open, it's airy because it's part of another room. I don't think I could work in a small room with the door closed. It would just be in this heat. I can't imagine it. I mean, I get the sun in here in the afternoons and it's too much, but at least I can sew in the mornings. And I've got a lovely view of the garden. I know I'm a lucky girl. So I just want to mention 2 little gadgets that I use that I've made before I go. The first one is this. You'll have seen it recently if you watched my scrap busting video. and it's for my machine sewing needles. So each of these different scraps of fabric's got embroidered on it what sort of needle goes in that space, and it really works well for me. It stops me ending up with needles I haven't got a Scooby what they are and throwing them away unnecessarily. So really enjoy using that. One of the best scrap busting things that I've ever made. And then the other thing that I use all the time is my pincushion pyramid. It's got pockets on the sides. I can put all my little bits. I've got clips in there. What have I got in here? I think I've got, oh yes, the screwdriver for my sewing machine. So you can put what you need in here. Both of these are Sweet Pea Designs embroidery patterns, but you can replicate them without the embroidery. You can just get yourself a template, cut some pyramids, put some pockets on, sew it together, stuff it, Bob's your uncle. So there we go, a little nosy in my sewing space. I hope you found some inspiration. If you've got any suggestions of anything else that I can do in a small sewing space to keep it tidy, apart from just keep tidying up when I've finished sewing, that would work, wouldn't it? Let me know, and I will see you all tomorrow. It's an exciting day tomorrow. I'm off to Abercorns in Mostyn with 5 other ladies. We're all meeting up there at 10:30 tomorrow morning, so I better get an early night tonight. And I'm going to try and record, but I'm doing it with a difference because I'm going to set myself a challenge to do while I'm there, and that's all I'm saying about it. Tune in tomorrow to find out what I'm up to. Bye!